Hey, what's up everyone? So while we wait for more characters to be released and discussed, I'm going to go in a slightly different direction here and talk about some other strategic choices that go into a team composition. So far we've really only focused on each individual character and what they bring to a team, but there are some other very important considerations to make if you want your team to be the best it can be. One of the most notable things to consider is your summon. Before I go too far though, I want to make clear that the meta is always shifting and summons that are good now might not be the best in a year. With balance changes constantly and new characters being added every couple of months, what people look for in a summon is always likely to change. What I want to focus on the most though is what each summon brings to the table and how they can cause an impact. So every summon does a few attacks on the field, including one finishing move, and also comes with two team-wide buffs. There's a pre-summoning buff that is active for the entire match, and then a post-summoning buff that is only active after you've summoned. So being the first team to summon can give you a passive advantage over the enemy team. People are still feeling out the summons after Shiva's recent nerf, but Shiva, Ifrit, and Ramuh are the most popular summons currently. These three are the ones with more proactive buffs, so it makes sense. The remaining summons have either reactive or less impactful buffs. Right now, the meta favors more proactive play. At high level play, you often see people trying to force the enemy team to make a mistake and try to gang up on individual players. Rarely do you see teams completely turtle it out and try to go to time, especially in rank mode where you are matched with random teammates, because a team like that requires a level of coordination to play a slower and more methodical style of play. So it's usually more beneficial to just stick with the more offensive suited summons. Alright, let's start with Shiva. You might have thought she was the only summon in the game for a while because she had a 90% pick rate in the arcades for a few months. Although Shiva was recently nerfed to bring everyone closer in line, her attacks are still really strong. One of her attacks leaves traps on the ground which freezes enemies that walk into them, leaving them vulnerable for an attack. Shiva's final attack, Diamond Dust, tracks for a long time, forcing enemies to spend a lot of time running away, which can leave someone isolated or without dash gauge. The main reason you pick Shiva though is for her buffs. Her pre-summon buff is incredibly powerful. It increases the speed at which your bravery resets from 0 to the default amount by 600%. There are a few reasons this is notable, so for one, the obvious, it enables HP attack spam to be way more effective. You'll have your bravery back up to 1000 much faster after your last HP attack, allowing you to throw another one right out. So if you're Vaughn, or if you're throwing out a lot of long range HP attacks where you can instantly target any enemy, this can be valuable. Another reason this buff is useful is because it greatly reduces the time you're vulnerable after catching someone else with an HP attack. Something you often notice, especially when multiple players are skirmishing, is that one player will connect with an HP attack, and then an opposing player will try to follow up on the original attacking player right after the first HP attack finishes. So this is because after your HP attack completes, your bravery goes down to 0 and then starts counting back up to the default amount, leaving you vulnerable to be broken. So if you can catch someone at this critical moment, your own bravery will benefit from a bravery break and you'll be able to deal significant HP damage. Shiva's buff makes this window much tighter because your bravery snaps back to the default amount much faster. Shiva's post-summoning buff is also really useful, so it changes your default bravery to 1300 as opposed to the usual 1000. So after connecting with an HP attack or having your bravery broken, you get 300 additional bravery every time. This really empowers characters who are focused on dealing HP damage, as they are that much closer to lethal HP damage range, and they can build up a lot of free damage if they use HP attacks often. So just as a small example, you can see in the video playing right now that I was able to pick up this kill only because my bravery was 1300 instead of 1000, thanks to Shiva's buff. There's also a small defensive benefit here as well, because now someone needs to deal 1300 bravery to you to break your bravery instead of 1000. So like I said, Shiva comes packed with two really useful buffs. So just a deeper look here, here's a quick clip to just see how Diamond Dust works. Orbs circle the targets for a few seconds and then explode, dealing damage to anyone inside. You can see though that faster characters can really bully slower characters, making it really difficult to avoid. You can't shield summon attacks, so you have to dodge them to avoid getting hit. Okay, and you can see Shiva's field attacks at work here specifically in this video. Aggressive zoning from her attacks means that Ace is split from the team. He survives because of teleport, but then his teammates kind of overreact and try to dash to the side to meet up with him and help him out. The enemy team, Lightning, gets caught and killed. Ace is forced to keep dashing because of the 3v2 now, and also because of Shiva's attacks. Then Sephiroth is caught by Diamond Dust and killed because he was trying to save Ace. So really just great disruption there and kind of allowed Shiva to dismantle the enemy team. Alright, so now let's talk about Ramuh. He's another character whose popularity stems from his buffs. He empowers your generic buff X skills, decreasing their cooldown and also increasing their duration. In general, every successful bravery attack reduces the cooldown of your X skills by a very small amount. This applies to any character regardless of their summon. Ramuh's pre-summoning buff increases this amount by 150% though, and the wiki for the arcade estimates that it reduces your X skill cooldowns by about 5 to 10 seconds on average. His post-summoning effect increases the duration of all generic buff X skills by 15%. The reason why this is so strong lies in the fact that HP Regain and Mighty Strikes, two buff X skills, are far and away the most popular X skills right now, with roughly a 33% pick rate each. This means that it's very likely that one person on your team is going to have these X skills, which makes Ramuh very effective. He makes other X skills more effective too, including Bravery Regain and Mighty Guard, but you can really see how impactful he is when you just focus on these two most popular X skills. HP Regain normally heals 1000 HP over a 30-second time period, but with Ramuh it heals for an additional 140 HP. A small difference, but when you think about all the summoning buffs, they're kind of relatively small, subtle changes, and in many situations 140 HP is more valuable than a Bravery boost. And also 140 HP is currently the highest HP boost you can get from any summon. Now when you look at Mighty Strikes, Ramuh causes its duration to increase from 15 seconds to 17.5 seconds. Once again, it seems small, but this allows you to sync it up better with many characters' unique X skills. So just for example, Sephiroth's Jenova X skill lasts for 20 seconds, as is Cloud's Limit Break. This brings them a little closer in line and gives you some more time to overpower your opponents. Not to mention, Ramuh also reduces the cooldown on these X skills, allowing you to use them again faster. So just some small things, but these are the types of buffs that can really push you over the edge. I'm sure there'll definitely be team strategies that will include syncing together unique X skills like Sephiroth's Jenova, Bart's Good Luck Charm, Terra's Trance, etc., and having the increased length and shortened cooldown on Mighty Strike, or other buffs like Bravery Regain and Good Time, can really increase the power that this strategy has. So that being said, Ramuh's attacks are very strong as well. He's probably the most zoning focused summon because every one of his attacks has an indicator on the ground. At first glance you might think, oh, okay, that just makes it easier to dodge, which is true, but that means the opponent will instinctively dodge it or wait out the attack, possibly leaving himself or an ally in a vulnerable position. While his regular attacks are relatively easier to dodge, his final attack is a bit stronger. So just a quick small example here, but you can look at this video and see how useful Ramuh's zoning can be. You can see number 2 on the minimap, Cloud, is surrounded by Ramuh's lightning strikes and is hesitant to move forward with his team. Because he isn't there, the blue team is able to easily pick up a kill on Cecil, and almost able to deal some HP damage to Kuja as well. And you can see in this video here how difficult it can be for a slower character to avoid Ramuh's finishing attack, Judgment Bolt. Here we see Xdeath is too slow to avoid it in this situation. There's a stun associated with this attack, and it happens so quickly that it can be really difficult to avoid sometimes. This is definitely one of the strongest finishing moves, and it gives you a lot of time to follow up on an enemy, dealing some HP damage, or maybe just following up with a Bravery attack. Ifrit has definitely seen a resurgence as late. His attack patterns are similar to Shiva's, but prior to her nerf, she just kinda outclassed him too much to really consider playing him. After her nerf, Ifrit now seems to be the strongest in terms of actual field attacks, immediately making him a popular choice. Ifrit's buffs aren't as impactful as Shiva and Ramuh generally, but there are some specific situations where you might want to choose Ifrit's buff over other characters. In terms of field attacks though, Ifrit's attacks are more sporadic and difficult to dodge, and his final attack covers more ground than the other summons. That alone gives him an edge. If your main concern is dropping your opponents to 0 bravery from a summon attack, Ifrit's your guy. Ifrit's pre-summon buff is that attacks do twice as much damage to shields. In other words, you can break someone's shields twice as fast. That isn't incredibly impactful, but is something to keep in mind depending on what character you play. If you have someone who can deal a ton of shield pressure like Squall or Sephiroth, enemies will have to be careful about shielding too much. Ifrit's post-summon buff increases the team's bravery damage by 30%. If you want to delve into math for just a second, Shiva and Ifrit's post-summoning buffs have similar results in the sense that they increase your bravery, but the subtle differences decide which one is more useful to your team. So let's assume on average a bravery attack deals 500 damage. It varies by character and role, but that's pretty close. You'll do an extra 150 bravery damage in that case, meaning you need to do 3 or more bravery attacks in between HP attacks to get more value out of Ifrit than you would Shiva in terms of pure bravery gain, ignoring everything else. Of course, in this situation, you're also taking bravery from your opponent at the same time, whereas in Shiva's situation, you're not, but you do immediately get to 300 bravery instead of having to build it up by successfully attacking. So this is kind of a long-winded explanation to tell you what you likely already know, that Shiva's better if you're going to spam HP attacks or if you think you won't connect with 2 or more bravery attacks between HP attacks. Otherwise, Ifrit will give you more value in that regard. This is compounded further by other variables like having Mighty Strikes active, which will further increase your bravery gain, so there's definitely some considerations that you should think about for your team composition if you really want to maximize your value here. This is of course just one aspect of what Ifrit or Shiva brings to a team, but it's worth considering if you want to be as efficient as possible. So like I said, Ifrit's field attacks seem to be the strongest right now. They cover a large area and oftentimes seem sporadic and require the enemy team to pay attention to where Ifrit is to be able to successfully dodge him. In this video here, Xdeath hits lightning and actually knocks her right into Ifrit's path. A bit of luck, but considering he rushes across the map, it's probably not too rare. Lightning gets hit by Ifrit as he goes by, knocking her into the air and stopping her knockback from Xdeath's attack. Now that she's been dropped down to 0 bravery and she was kept kind of close to the blue team, it's an easy long range kill here for the Emperor right after. In this clip here, you can see the size and power of Hellfire, which is Ifrit's finishing move. Bartir is going to land on the ground and try to escape, but he's unable to due to the size and speed of the attack. He gets knocked up by the attack and loses all of his bravery, giving the Emperor an easy follow-up and kill. So these are just a few examples of each summon's utility, and hopefully this gives you a glimpse into the reasoning of why you might want to use each summon. Shiva's buffs make HP attack spam much more impactful and safe, and her attacks can really displace enemies and force them to move in a way that is punishable. Ramuh's zoning attacks have a similar impact on the enemy team's positioning, and his buffs can really enable teams that rely on burst by combining character X skills with Mighty Strike, as well as enabling several other strategies with other buffing X skills. If you're looking for pure damage, Ifrit is a great go-to, and he can really give your team an edge by dropping enemies down to 0 bravery with his large quick attacks. In most matches you watch of high level players though, you can kind of see summons having an impact in one way or another. Subtle things like zoning can be tough to notice, but something as small as forcing someone to back up can be really useful. These 3 summons represent about 90% of the pick rate in the arcades currently, and it's been this way for pretty much the entire year. Ramuh was the top pick for a while early on, and then Shiva had her reign over the summer. Now it looks like Ifrit is getting his time on the light. With their generally useful buffs and strong field attacks, I don't see this changing anytime soon unless there's another balance patch or something that comes out for some of the weaker summons. In my next video, I'll delve into the remaining 4 summons and explain their strengths, weaknesses, and what they're kind of missing compared to the most popular 3 right now. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.